Hello, hello, hello. Good noon to everybody. Myself is Dr. Geeta Waghela, Associate Professor in Microbiology Department. Today I am talking about the introduction of parasitology. What do you mean parasitology? Means parasites. You are depend means in Gujarati we are telling about the paravlambi. So that means they are dependent to another organism, live organism, those who can survive and depend for nourishment and shelter for other organism. It is called the parasites. Now, in microbiological, medical parasitology, there is a very important topic because the pathogens involved in medical parasitology, the pathogens is human infectious disease. That's why it may be include virus, bacteria and fungi and parasites also. And this is the, you get a knowledge about the parasites in their life cycles, pathogenesis, treatment, preventions, all things you should get knowledge. This is called parasitology. Parasites can cause a disease. It is called the parasitic disease. And it is a very important system in medicine. Those are the Nobel laureates who study on parasite or parasitic disease. Leveran 1907, Rochelle 1902, Julius 1927 and Miller 1948. Leveran can find out the malarial parasites. Now we are going to the general introductions of medical parasitology. What you know about, after finishing this lecture, you should be able to know what is the medical parasitology. What do you mean by taxonomy of parasites? Those the concept who related to medical parasitology. Other basic factors of transmission of parasitic disease, laboratory diagnosis of parasitic disease and treatment of parasitic disease. Last but not least, other the of parasitic disease. What is medical parasitology? It deals with the study of parasites which infect and produce disease in human beings. And this parasitological study include the morphology of parasites, life cycle, pathogenesis of parasites, and the diagnosis of parasite, how they can transmit from one person to other persons, what is the prevalence rate of parasitic disease, and preventions and control of the disease. So how can you prevent and control the parasitic disease? To study parasite and parasitic disease in medical parasitology. So all things involved, first that you can learn about the morphology, then life cycle, pathogenesis, diagnosis, treatment, transmissions, and prevention and control. So in taxonomy of parasites, you have to know all parasites are classified under the following taxonomic units. The kingdom, subkingdom, phylum, subphylum, superclass, class, superorder, suborder, superfamily, genus, and species. Each parasite has two names, a genus and a species name. So the generic name of the parasites always being within an initial capital letter and species name within small letter. Example of Entamoeba cystolica. Derived from names of their discoverers, Greek or Latin words of the geographical area where they are found, habitat of the parasites or host in which parasites are found, and depend upon the taxonomium size and shape of the parasite. Example like Entamoeba coli and Toxoplasma gondii. There is some conception related to the medical parasitology. To understand something words, medical words, you have to know about that. What is the meaning of that words? There is symbiosis. In symbiosis, the two live organisms depend upon each other, interdependent. One cannot live without help of others, and they can got both are benefits and there is no harm. This is called a symbiosis. There may include parasite and type of parasite, host and common type of host, life cycle and type of life cycle. So this is about the biological phenomena, symbiosis, the relations between two living things. Two living things live together and involve protections or other advantages to one or both partner. And in symbiosis, some common medical terminology like commensalism, mutualism and parasitism. So commensalism is a class of relationship between two organisms where one organism benefits but the other is neutral. There is no harm or no benefits. Mutualism as association with two beneficial to both living things. Both are beneficial to getting any help of that, depend upon their nourishment and shelter also. This example like mutualism, red-boiled oxpeckers are on the back of the impala and feed on small insect of eggs in back of impala. The relationship benefits both animals. Parasitism is an association which is beneficial to one partner and harmful to the other partner. And the former that is a beneficial to it is called a parasite, and the later is a harmful to is called a host. Human is a host, hookworm is a parasite. So here there is a life cycle. You can see that is the hookworm. They infect the human beings. They develop that biological development, got infected to human, but human doesn't get any beneficial from parasites. You can also give what is the type of parasite. So it is an animal that is dependent on another animal host for as a survival. Therefore survival. And types of parasites, there are classified parasites in protozoa. Helminths further classified in nematodes, trematodes and cystoid, and that all protozoal and helminths are endoparasite, and arthropods, it is a ectoparasites. So protozoa is a unicellular animals, and it is a very small range in size from 2 to more than 100 micrometers. They have cell membrane, cell plasma and nucleus. Nematodes, it is a longer in size, cylindrical body, vermiform, bilaterally similar in structures and tapered towards their anterior and posterior, and both you can find. And adults are dioecious. Dioecious means sexes are separated. Okay? Trematodes, which is typically flattened and leaf-shaped. There are male and female system in fluke body. Both systems remain one parasite. Adults are hermaphroditic, means sex are not separated, both female and male in one parasite. Cystoids, it is a long, ribbon-like in shape. It is like a tap. Though it is sometimes it is called a tapeworm. and chain of segments you can find out, and there is 3 parts. In cystoid you can find out 3 parts: anterior part, neck and body, and each segment bear a capital, and each segment bear both sexes, male and female system. Adults are hermaphroditic, sexes are not separated. So in nematode, sexes are separated. In trematode and cystoid, they are hermaphroditic, sexes are not separated. Other classification of parasite, there is maybe according to different ways, like obligate parasite. A parasite which cannot survive in any other manner. This is called a obligate parasite. Facultative parasites, an organism we may exist in free living state and which if opportunity present itself may become a parasite. They are give opportunity. This is called the opportunistic parasites. Endoparasite and ectoparasite. So a parasite which lies in or on body of the host is called the endoparasite, like a protozoa and helminths, or ectoparasites, they are living the surface of the body. This is called the arthropods. The basic factor for transmission of parasitic disease. How can they transmit one parasite from other? One organism to other organism line. So the source of the infections, what is the source? It depends upon the transmission. There is an important source of infection. How can they infect? Other, the mode of transmission. How can you get transmitted? And third one is susceptibility of host. The susceptible, which hosts are more susceptible to prone that parasitic disease. The combined effect of those factors determine the dispersal and prevalence of the parasites at a given time and place and regulate the incidence of the parasitic disease in certain local populations. So host and type of host. What do you mean by host? So an organism that harbors the parasite and provides nourishment and shelter usually larger than the parasite. This is called the host. Intermediate host, the host harboring the larva or asexual form of multiplication of parasites. This is called the intermediate host. Final, this is the definitive host, the host harboring adult or sexual multiplication. They are adult and they are sexual in stage of parasite, and this is called the definitive host. Reservoir or host, animals harboring the same species of parasite as a man, potentially sources of human infections. This is called a reservoir host. So in life cycle, 3 parts is very important in life cycles. The life cycle process of parasites: growth, development and reproduction, which proceed in one or more different hosts depending on the species parasite. So 3 parts is very important. Transmission. Without transmission they cannot. After transmission, the growth and development of that parasite is very important. Growth, the vicious circle, means this cycle is remaining, going on. So they need a reproductions. If they produce the reproductions, and the cycle is vice versa. Life cycle and type of life. Life cycle, the whole process of parasites growing as well as developing. This is called a life cycle. There are 2 types of life cycle: direct life cycle and indirect life cycle. In direct life cycle, when a parasite requires only one host to complete its development, it is referred as a direct or a simple life cycle with one host. Direct life cycle, you will find out only one host. In indirect life cycle, when a parasite requires 2 hosts, one definitive host and another is intermediate host, to complete its development, and it is indirect complex life cycle. life cycle with more than one host. That's why it is called complex life cycle. So direct life cycle, you can see there is only the definitive host, final host, man. And this is a parasite adults in small intestine. They can habitate for humans. So this is a direct. There is no need to transmit parasite from intermediate host to final host. Indirect cycle, they need an intermediate host. They can develop and growing. They can develop and growing their cycle in intermediate host, and they need also a definitive host because they cannot passes their life cycle, sexual life cycle in intermediate host. That's why they goes into the definitive host, pass the sexual life cycle, and the development is growing on. The source of the infection. Which source? How can the infection goes from one to another? So there is source of infection. One is man, animal, and vectors. So man is patient, person who have parasite in their body and shows a clinical symptoms, or a carrier. Those who are harbor, what do you mean by carrier? Carrier means those who are harbor the infections, parasites in their body, but there is no symptoms. Okay, this is called a carrier. So person who have parasite in their body but not show the symptoms. Animal always called as a reservoir of host, because animal cannot develop a disease, but these parasites are habited to remain in the longer time in animals. Those which is called a reservoir host. And so animals that harbor the same species of parasite as man sometimes, and the parasite in animals can transmit into the human. This is called a zoonotic disease. When the disease goes from animal to human beings or man, this is called a zoonotic disease. Vectors is a very important to transmit the infection from the infected human being to another. So there are two types of vectors available to transmit the infection. One is mechanical carrier, one is mechanical vectors, and other is a biological vector. What do you mean by biological vector? The biological vector, that means this vector passes the life cycle or development and growing in another organism, and they transmit the disease. This is called a biological vector. Another mechanical vector, those who can took a parasite or organism or infective organism within wing or within leg and transmit one place to other place. This is called, and there is no development of that particular infective organism, and they transmit the disease. This is called the mechanical vectors. Okay. So in example, biological vector, the mosquito in malaria, this is a biological vector, and food poisoning like salmonella, this is transmit disease by flies. This is called a mechanical vector. Another is vertical, means congenital transmission. So some of the parasite from transfer pregnant mother to child or to infant. This is called the vertical or congenital transmission. And example like Toxoplasma gondii parasite, they can transmit by congenital transmission. Contact transmissions, direct contact, sexual contact. There is one organism, those can transmit directly, contact sexually. This is Trichomonas vaginalis, an indirect contact of sexual but indirect contact. This is Anthrabovis vermicularis, Ascariasis lumbricoides. Another oral and feco-oral route. The parasite transmits also oral or feco-oral route. The most common mode of infections is transmitted oral by ingestions of food, water, or vegetables contaminated with fishes containing the infective stage of parasites. Another mode of transmission is the penetration of the skin and mucous membrane. So some parasite can transmit it from transmitted from another organism, another host, by the penetration of their larva from a parasite through skin. Example like Ankylostomia duodenale and Necator amicans. On Strongyloides turcuralis. Bites of vector. So some parasites, they can transmit the infection after biting. So many parasite diseases are transmitted by insect bites such as malaria, by mosquito, Anopheles mosquito, filariasis by Culex mosquito, and leishmaniasis is transmitted by bite by sandflies. Blood transmission. Some parasite can also transmit it by blood or blood product. So certain parasite can be transmitted through the transfusion of blood or blood products like Plasmodia, Leishmania, filariasis, toxoplasmosis. All are transmitted by blood product or blood transfusion. Auto-infections. This is also one part of transmission, is auto-infections. There is no need to another person to transmit. So few intestinal parasites may be transmitted to the same persons by contaminated hand, external and auto-infections, or by reverse peristalsis, internal auto-infections like Antrobius vermicularis. The two methods. There are direct, same person to contaminated when there are hand, they are not hygienic, their hand, and the contaminated hand or finger, they can transmit by orophycal route. Who is susceptible host? So in general, most people is the susceptible host. The parasite reaching a susceptible host must gain entrance and set up a favorable residency in order to complete its life cycle and cause the transmission of parasitic disease. Relationship effect. When the parasite and host relationship, that time when the parasite infection goes to the man or a host, so how type of this effect produced? The parasite injure to or harbor in host animal or human to response immune production. So we know about the effect of the parasite on the host and effects of the host on the parasites. So effect of the parasites on the host. So mostly one, depriving the host of essential substance. They deprive the essential nutrition substance of the host. Example like a hookworm. When the hookworm infections, the Ankylostomia duodenalis can suck the blood from gastric mucosa and remain that open to oozing the blood, and that's why they produce the anemia. Second one is mechanical effect of parasite on the host. So there is Ascariasis lumbricoides. They can mechanically affect the host. How can? When the larva of Ascariasis migrating from portal to digestive system, they pass through in the lungs. That time, they can produce a Loeffler syndrome, like a pneumonia. And also in gastric type, they habitate in ileum. That's why Ascariasis, there is a load of Ascariasis is increased, and that time perforate. They can occur to mucosa perforation. This is peritonitis, and when the lodging of Ascariasis in lumen of that, and this is called the obstruction in ileus. Okay. Some parasite can produce toxic and allergic production, and that's why they produce the toxic and allergic effect. Like example, like a proteolytic enzyme, the necrosis in proteolytic enzyme, like Entamoeba histolica, they can cause a necrosis and produce ulcers. Some parasites can produce antigens, and that antigen, parasite antigen, can stimulate the immune system, and then the response from the immune, and they can produce the higher immune response they can produce, and they produce allergy or a hypersensitivity due to parasitic antigen. This is called the anaphylaxis. Example like Echinococcus granulosus, hydatid cysts, they contain hydatid fluid. If the using or liberate leakage of the hydatid fluid, they can cause a hypersensitivity reactions, cause a first type 1 hypersensitivity, and this can cause anaphylaxis also. Another example, Escherichia lumbricoides, they can release the ascaron fluids, and they can also cause a hypersensitivity 1, and this can cause anaphylaxis reactions also. In depriving the host nutrients like Escherichia lumbricoides can also cause a vitamin A deficiency and malnutrition due to their nutritional deficiency of man. Depriving the host of nutrition. So pathogen utilize nutrition from host environment for their development and reproduction. So helminth nematodes or fluke have a gut and mouth, feed upon the surrounding tissues, body fluids, or even host cells debris. Tapeworms, there is no gut or no mouth, so replay on the host daily intake by their body wall, absorbing for their own food. This is by osmosis method. They can get their own food from host. The example like the hookworms, after completing its migration to small intestine, feeds by biting deeply into the mucosa, sucking blood and tissue fluids. Hookworm infection cause anemia due to the simple blood loss. Mechanical effect of parasite, there is entering the cells. Some protozoa must live and reproduce in certain cells. Finally, result in the rupture of the host cell. They rupture the host cells and they comes out and produce the infections. Example like Plasmodia. Either it is a falciparum or vivax. They rupture the smell, goes into the blood. When the mosquito bite that blood, they transmit the infection from intermediate host man to definitive host of mosquito. Migration or penetration through tissue or organ. Such of the larva of hookworm or Escherichia in blood can penetrate the wall of capillary of lung, valvulae, and cause mechanical damage. There is pneumonitis. Some parasite can cause a blockage on pressures on the lumen. The intestinal lumen can be blocked by worms. Hydatid cyst in liver may reach, there are volumes so the hydatid fluid volume is 1 to 2 liters. So the cyst is so high, so bigger, it can cause a severe damage to organ. Toxin release, and that is due to produce a hypersensitivity. The many parasites can produce toxins and cause a damage to host. In contrast to bacterial toxin, parasitic toxin have a minimal role in pathogenesis. Hypersensitivity, the metabolite excretion of their products. Antigen, the immune system of host, they can cause a hyperimmune response, and that's why they cause a hypersensitivity in harmful to host or even fatal reaction, because there is a hyperimmune response. Rupture of hydatid cyst with sudden release of large amounts of fluid, severe allergic reaction, anaphylaxis, sometimes lead to shock or to death. To patient, it is a fatal. Now, effects of the host on the parasites. So, the host can produce certain degree resistance to parasites in human body or reinfection. And the resistance, the immunity is not very strong. In general, it don't wipe out parasite completely. They cannot do. Some parasites remain inside, but may limit the number of parasites. The limit number of the parasite, they remain that they cannot produce the reinfection, and they establish balance with the host is established balance with the parasite. There are two types of immunity you can find out in parasitic infection: innate immunity, acquired immunity. Innate immunity, what is the factor as important for innate immunity? So the barrier. To prevent parasite to invade in certain degree, skin, mucosa and placenta is a barrier to pass out some infections. Acid in skin and stomach cause damage to parasites. There is a phagocytic cells in our body. They can occur phagocytosis of phagocytes. There is when there is immune response increase and there is an antigen is come in contact with the body, there is some infections can release toxin, can release the complements, and it leads to the formation of holes in the parasite membrane. So there is a major role of complement to reduce the parasitic infection. Natural killer cells. If our body immune system have a natural killer cells, so non-specific, effective against the wide range of parasitic infection, controlled by genetic factor, but not very strong. It is very weak. Second one is acquired immunity. There is a mechanism. There are two types of acquired immunity you can find out in parasitic disease. One is cellular and another is humoral immunity. So in mechanism sterilizing immunity. What do you mean by sterilizing immunity? Means wipe out the parasite completely. They can wipe the parasite completely. Meanwhile, get a long-term specific resistance to reinfection, but it is rare. Non-sterilizing immunity means wipe out most of the parasite, but not completely, on the premises of the parasite in the body, and limit the number of parasite in body and get a part of resistance to reinfections. Okay, this is more common. No parasite, no immunity. Now, in parasitic disease, how can you diagnose? There is an important role to diagnose the parasitic disease. So there is which laboratory diagnosis you can do for the parasitic disease. So parasitic diagnosis either by microscopically or macroscopically. Macroscopically means naked eyes you can see parasite, very common. Second one is when you can find out, like an example of Entamoeba histolytica. This is giardia. This is called a diarrhea, most common. And that organism you can find out microscopically, not macroscopically, because it's smaller in size. That's why they have a cyst or egg. So when you find out the cyst and eggs from these tools, you need a microscope. But some organisms, those who are larger in shape and cylindrical, have body like a nematodes. So in that particular case, naked eye, you can see the nematode like a hookworm, round worm. Okay? And this is Ascariasis lumbricoid and Ankylostoma duodenale in your tap form. You can find out easily in stool by naked eye. Second one is a cultures method, parasite. When it is a very difficult and tedious, so very easily you can find out microscopically. Third one is immunodiagnostic method, antigen and antibody detections method. You can find out the indirect diagnosis. When the antigen is remained, that particular specific antigen, you can find out that against antibody in our body by immunodiagnostic method. There is a different immunodiagnostic method. You can already learn in antigen-antibody reactions. Third one is intradermal skin test. Means immune reactions. How can you? Patient are immune or not? They are. So how can you diagnose that? So intradermal skin test. Patient have infection or not? Patient have antibody or not? So in that cases, you can introduce the antigen intradermally. Where the antibody in their body patients, they can act with that and cause the immune reactions. And in intradermal skin test, you can find Waldfler reactions. Okay. Animal inoculations, when you can inoculate the parasites in animal and they can produce same disease in animals. You can find out that. Imaging techniques, shape structure of parasite, you can by microscopical. When there is a calcified of that bomb or some, you can find out in imaging technique also. So calcified form you can find out that. Treatment of parasitic disease. So treatment of parasitic disease is primarily based on chemotherapy and in some case of surgery, by surgery. So mostly the anti-parasite drugs, most of chemotherapeutic agents are used for the treatment and prophylactics of parasitic infection. But some like Echinococcus granulosus like infection, they can produce a hydatid cyst in liver. In that case, you can need a surgical management for a management of parasitic disease. And neurocystic sarcoidosis indicated. So in that cases, you need a surgical interventions. How can prevent measure to parasitic disease? Which measures can prevent the parasitic disease? So controlling the source of the infection. You go to the root cause analysis. You can find out what is the source of infection, where the patients are come in contact and produce the infection. So treatment of patient, carriers and reservoir host. You can treat the patient. Also you can treat the carriers, reservoir of host. Intervention at the roots of transmission. Which route they can transmit. You can do the intervention particular to managing fishes and water resources, controlling or eliminating vectors and intermediate host. Protect the susceptible host, to paying attention to personal hygiene. This is a major role to controlling the most of parasitic disease. Changing bed, eating habit and taking medicine. Thank you for attention. Okay, Pati. Yes, Smita.